And you would never know it when you meet Mr. Half. I'll break there for a quick moment. When I initially met him, when Greg brought me out to California some 30 years ago, I was kind of expecting to meet this guy with a suit on, and I didn't know whether to walk on the floor. I didn't know what to do, what to say. And I said, Mr. Half, it's such a pleasure to meet you. And he was like, call me Herb. Don't call me Mr. Half, call me Herb. And then he was working beside Greg and I in Ruston, just like he told us he did growing up as a kid. So the things about him, you can read these things, and these things are true, guys. You can look it up yourself. But what has never changed Herb and his heart is people. He loves people. He loves helping people. That's what's made him such a special person. And I really thank you for that, Herb, for everything that you do for people. Herb once gave up $10.8 million. This one was a little hard for me to understand, but I did over time. And this is what distinguishes Herb, if only just for one part in his heart. It's safe to say that the defense was represented by an office with the toughest guys in Washington. After they lost to Herb, they went to the draft, the verdict agreement, and at the end of a long 2-3 nights, they finished the agreement while Herb was out of the room. When discussing the verdict, the highest in the California history again, with the most sophisticated clients, they made a mistake. They made a $10 million mistake, and it was signed. It was all ready to go. And on the other attorneys that was working with Herb at that point, they pointed this out, and Herb said, we can't do that. That's why I say it's still a little tough for me, but I do understand over the years who he has become and who he truly is, and that's a genuine person. He turned down that 10.8. He told me, you guys made a mistake, correct it, and I'll sign off on this. And that's what he did. What Herb would also do is he lived by this, because Herb, you see where he is now and you see what he does for everybody. But Herb grew up tough as a lot tougher than a lot of us grew up. And some of you guys that are there, he was born during the Great Depression. And today Herb won't leave anything. He'll be asking you, Bern, are you through with that food? He doesn't believe in throwing anything away. And I know why. When I've seen the movies from some of the issues and things that were going on in the 20s, you truly had to rely on faith in God at that point. You really had to. When quoted on the front page of the most highly regarded publication, The American Lawyer, the losing party said that every single time they tried a jury, they had 5 mock trials. They won every time, but we couldn't win against Herb. He was a courtroom magician. It was him. Now, Herb's not saying this. This is what they're saying about him, okay? You can take his word to the bank, and that was actually true, referring back to the $10 million that he said, no, you made a mistake, keep that. You truly can take his word to the bank. At this time, Herb wasn't just trying cases. He was now reforming, where he had also developed a coalition of 21 cities to get more politicians, more judges, more people in places to help. What they called at that time was the poor, even though we still are called that sometimes. But yes, Herb wanted to help people that had some disadvantages occur in their lives. And that's what he did. He created a fast track to court in 21 cities, guys. 21 cities over a 3-year period. Herb was also an environmentalist, if you can tell by all the trees that are here. Hear Herb tell it, he planted every one of them. I was like, okay, Herb, you're a little busy there.
Probably did.
Now, he took a bankrupt trial bar and was voted the greatest president in the history of that trial bar in a 1-year period. Due to his work, guys, pre-existing conditions as a defense dagger pointing at the heart of a corrupt, powerful insurance industry, it took Congress 20 to 30 years later to catch up with Herb. And it really did, guys. Guys, gotta bear with me here. In the courts, his $500 million verdict was a historic, unprecedented jury result. One of his greatest moments as a lawyer was when he resuscitated the more than 100-year-old Abraham Lincoln whistleblower law and discovering ways to use it in cases against corrupt defense industry. He was like a legal lawnmower helping the forgotten consumers. At one point, Herb would be offered $6 million to settle his $200,000 part of a case. They were paying to get Herb out of the courtroom is what they were doing, so they could finish their larger cases against the U.S. attorney. Of course, Herb didn't go for it. Herb also gave to the bankrupt Charles Barr their farm booklet. That went to bringing in $350,000 in 1 year. He raised more money in 1 year than the Democratic Party, who only raised $250,000 in 2 years. Herb did it all in 2 months and 3 weeks. 2 months and 3 weeks, guys. At the same time, he was using one court miracle after another. Not bad for a guy who started from scratch. At the bottom of the Great Depression, where his mother, guess I got ahead of myself. Where his mother made $11 for a 7-day week. Now Herb was making millions of dollars in a year. And from there, he continued on. Only 10 years later, Herb soon had 13% of all million-dollar verdicts in the U.S. before always winning million-dollar verdicts when he stepped into a courtroom. He had the highest guys at that time. He was called by one courtroom opponent a spellbinding magician. He made his cases with no notes. In his spare time, he was able to look back on a legal career that proved his courtroom toughness and continued to inspire fear in the opposition. Death threats be damned. Herb was one tough hombre. Courageous enough to withstand the anonymous death threats that had reached a crescendo, Herb had proven to be without equal in law, but also an architect. I don't know if you guys know that. Some of the statues that you're seeing around here, I actually saw him do them, so I can be a witness. He did do them. So, Mr. Half is a very talented man. He's also proven without equal in law, but also an architect. One of his architectural wonders was called the Jewel of the Pacific. Herb's magic may stop this year as his kidneys have failed, and he doesn't have the energy to continue such great achievements. He recommended coining the phrase that money and fame are not a goal, but a disease, and he meant it. And I think he shows it every day. It's what he can do to help people. That's most important to Herb. Herb creates a metaphor based on the starlight. The light travels at 183 miles per second, and long after the stars die, the light on the star goes on, and that's what we see, a lot like a human light. We are gone, but the light on what we achieve continues. The effort of the short life continues. The man or woman will be dead, much like the distant star, whose light continues for thousands of years and no more remains, but the light goes on. When the starlight goes on for thousands of years, forget your small life and pray that you've done for others in your life. Much as the star, the light comes, much as the star that the light comes from, it's unknown, but light still goes on. God sees it and allows only a moment of fame, but put together with the light of 1,000 years, we all die, but hopefully our light will still go on. And that's what we truly believe, and you guys do so much. And thank you again, and I know that comes from Mr. Half as well. But without further ado, Herbert Half.